Hello, well, once again, rain hat on, bright sunshine. Guess what the weather's like today? Excuse me while a tractor goes by. I'm in the greenhouse because I wanted to give you an update on my single seed potatoes because I'm rather excited. I was devastated because on top it looks like there's absolutely nothing going on. What number's that? That's number 4. But this is number 1. Can you see? Look. Got a little shoot coming, and I've checked all of the pots, and at least 3 of them, I think now, have got something going on in those pots, so fingers crossed. Okay, but that wasn't seriously noisy. Let's shut that door. We're in the greenhouse today because I wanted to talk about parasitic wasps. Now, I know many of you, like me, grow chilies and peppers, and it's not long now until I'll be putting my chilies and my peppers out in the greenhouse, but it coincides with greenfly time. I was having problems with watering, or so I thought, because my padron was curling a lot at the top, a little bit like this cayenne, as you can see there, and I couldn't work out what it was. And I'd been checking the plants for aphids and no sign of them at all. They all look pretty clean, and upon closer inspection what I realised is that the aphids were actually crawling right into the crown of the plant, and when I looked really carefully they were all in there, so I assume they've been sucking away and causing that leaf curl and wilting on the top of the chilies. So having followed all of the comments and advice, I got myself a spray bottle, tiny squirt of washing up liquid, filled to the top with water, and then just been giving it a good spray right into the crown, and believe it or not, that has worked an absolute wonder. Those nasty little aphids will attempt to suck the living daylights out of your chilli plants. Now, there's lots of different schools of thoughts in terms of how to deal with that. I've tried lots. So I've tried spraying them with a mild mix of water with fairy liquid, and that had some effect. I've tried meticulously cleaning off every greenfly I could find with a bit of sellotape. So you get the sellotape, you wind it around your finger backwards so the sticky side is outside, and you gently dab away at the greenfly so you physically remove them. And that is a fantastic method, because I don't know if you know this, but an aphid gives birth, a female aphid gives birth to live young. So when you spot just 1 or maybe 2 or 3 aphids on your plant, you think, oh, not too bad. But actually that's about to get many times worse, as hundreds, I might be exaggerating, I don't know how many they give birth to, but it's a lot. They give birth to a lot of tiny little baby aphids, which in turn give birth to many little tiny aphids. And in my experience, they're really crafty, because just as the chilies are starting to crown up in order to put out a bud, they'll climb down right near that crown of growth, and of course they then give birth to all of those babies who suck the life out. And you know, the chilies will survive generally, but it really knocks them back and they don't like it. So this year I've got a super secret method. there are a number of predators that eat greenfly. Ladybirds is the famous one, and I've known people buy in ladybirds to pop along their plants so that they can gobble up all of those aphids, and that works tremendously. So I think the year before last I went on a massive ladybird hunt, hunted out all of the ladybirds I could find in the garden and brought them into the greenhouse. But I don't know what it was about my greenhouse, because they didn't seem to want to stay. They just flew off. Maybe one or two hung around. But the other thing, the other really useful predator is the it's the parasitic wasp, and that really cleverly lays its egg inside of the aphid. So how do you get parasitic wasps into your greenhouse? Well, you need to put in some flowers to attract them. They'll make their way in anyway once the greenhouse is full of plants, and I guess they realise the greenfly are in here, and they'll eventually make their way in. And in my experience, the minute you get a few parasitic wasps in your greenhouse, your aphid issues are over. But in order to encourage them in early, I've got a lucky discovery. Over here we've got, do you remember I had a mystery plant and I was begging for information on what it was? I planted a load of microgreens and decided to let them grow on. Well, it turns out the mystery plant was white mustard. Just look at that. So that's only a few weeks ago. That was a microgreen, and it's already beginning to flower. And that's fantastic, because as those flowers open, the parasitic wasps are going to be attracted in here. So my game plan is to let those stay in those quad grow tubs for as long as I possibly can. Get the parasitic wasps established into the greenhouse before the chillies come out. So yeah, these are quad grows. So they're the self-watering grow pots that you put the bottom is filled with water that you feed nutrients into. The top part has a wicking cloth that goes down into the water, and they self-water, and they're absolutely fabulous. Even in really hot weather, I was getting probably nearly 2 weeks before I needed to re-top up the tank. So I bought these specifically for tomatoes, and they were fantastic. But here, where the perpetual spinach is currently thinking about flowering and going to seed, I had melons. I grew Minnesota midget melon up the back end here, and I made a structure for them to climb up out of bamboo, and they did marvellously. And my goodness, tennis ball size melons, Minnesota midget, they were the most juicy, tasty melons I have eaten in my life. I really recommend that Minnesota midget. And there you see, I'm also letting that lettuce go to seed, and that's about to flower. And similarly, those are going to help to get those predators in here in time for the greenfly season. The rest is going to get transplanted. I'm currently working on different locations to put the chard, so it'll be a mixture of pots and interplanting all over the place. The carrot, which shouldn't ideally be transplanted, is going to get transplanted, and we'll follow the progress of that. The spring onions will go in my little salad bed. I've got a few more beetroot here to pot around the place, and I want to establish a few nice pots of oregano. Same with the coriander, and I've started pulling them out already, and I've got some lettuce at the back. I'm hoping this parsley will get a move on so I can pull that out before I need to give these pots a super duper clean out and get them ready for tomato time. But I've got some time yet, because the tomatoes, they're only about 6 inches tall, and I can pop them on into a smaller pot and keep them going for a little while. I'm thinking that I've got a volunteer tomato in there. I think that's a tomato seedling. And similarly, in amongst the weeds and the spring onions, I think I've got a couple more there. And from memory, I had the Oxheart Heritage Italian tomato in here. So I'm wondering if that's what that's going to be. I'll have to keep an eye on them and see. So before I go, anyone do me a favour? What on earth is this? So that's a rhubarb crown. I needed to move some rhubarb and unfortunately snapped off the crown. So whopped it in here to try and save it. Look, it's grown a little mate. Anyway, I'll leave you with that one. Any idea? Please pop it in the comments.